This week on ANN, we have a very special episode just in time for Christmas. And as usual, we'll showcase the various Adventist humanitarian agencies that have worked to help people in need throughout the continuing COVID-19 pandemic. It's our hope that you are inspired to reach out and share the love of Jesus with those in your own community by what you see today. Thank you so much for joining us. This week, people all over the world celebrate Christmas. In 2021, we were still caught in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. Some of us couldn't see our families. Many of us lost loved ones, and there were empty places around the table. While we know that Jesus wasn't born in December, we pause during this time of year to remember his birth and sacrifice for humanity, especially this year when there has been so much sickness, sadness, and loss. The joy of who he is and what he has done to save us brings us hope. In this week's episode, we will take time to see just a few of the ministries and programs around the world helping those in need or sharing Jesus with others. We hope you will be inspired and blessed to reach out to your community, see where there is a need, and help in any way you can. During this time, we pray all of you will find the peace and hope only Jesus can bring. Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, the Adventist Development and Relief Agency, or ADRA, has worked to bring aid and relief to people around the world. Despite stay-at-home orders and logistical barriers, ADRA never stopped working to serve those who needed them most. Throughout the pandemic, ADRA worked to change the lives of more than 35 million people worldwide.
Hey guys, so good to see you. Haven't seen you guys in a while. Come inside. I don't think in a million years anyone could have convinced me pre the pandemic that there would be such a thing as a global pandemic. Because to be honest, in my mind, pandemics were something that were relegated to the history books.
Well, I had a question for him regarding the 5 containers that we're sending to Africa. I've been working from home now since March of last year. It's more than, 19 months now.
But he passed away this past
look at all these
Thursday.
folks.
Prayers for several family members that are sick or health challenges.
I had no idea we would still be here. And so, wow, that's all I can say.
I was really stuck at home like everybody else, I guess.
Like most people, we just had to learn to pivot.
All in all, I would say it's been a good bonding time with the family. There's also that upside of all of us being around the house and having our various places in the house and our little offices to handle school or handle work.
We've taken a lot of walks. We get on bicycles and we go for bike rides, or we literally go and sit on the bench looking at the lake. We watch the ducks.
I just embraced flexibility. Some days didn't look like other days. Some days we would be focused on getting our work done, and then there were some days where we're just like, you know what, put your sneakers on, we're going outside, we're going to play.
As weeks turned into months, and then those months became a year, and you thought, is this ever going to end? ADRA's mission is to serve vulnerable communities around the world. It's what ADRA's done for decades. With the onset of COVID, obviously that brought just a whole new set of challenges.
Borders are closed. The ports are closed. The supply chain has been disrupted, as it has been disrupted here. You need supplies. You need your medical supplies, your consumables, not to mention that you need protective gear like isolation gowns, PPEs, and whatnot to respond to this pandemic.
We had to pivot in terms of the work that we were doing, and we then directed our activities to these vulnerable communities, but now through the lens that obviously there was a global pandemic.
ADRA, that's who we are, that's what we do. We are involved in crises and emergencies and different things, and we've had many over the last 18 months in various capacities, and we have not missed a beat.
In the year of 2019, we served 14 million people around the globe who found themselves either destitute or in vulnerable situations. During 2020, we served 35 million people. Now, if you'd said to me pre-pandemic that we would not only achieve that scale of impact on vulnerable communities, but could do so remotely, working remotely away from the office, I really would have said that was just impossible. It would never be the case. And yet here we sit able to reflect back on 2020 and seeing that we more than doubled our impact globally.
Even though we're still here, I think it still shows how resilient we are as an agency to be able to still function in times of a global pandemic like COVID-19.
Our local church infrastructure around the world, that's what makes us stronger. And in responding to the pandemic, it wasn't ADRA alone, it was ADRA with all the church institutions working hand in hand with our partners, with our friends, with our volunteers. The church was a mobilizing force, and so this ADRA, we had resources, but we needed the volunteers, we needed everybody to work together. And to me, it just demonstrated how strong of an influence for good we can be in the world, a force for good in the world if we work together. We as an agency, we acted almost like a catalyst to connect institutions and to engage our logistic partners, our aviation partners, to mobilize the resources, to get involved in the supply chain. And then we engaged the local ADRA offices and the church institutions locally and reached those health institutions and clinics and hospitals. And so the product left here, but it arrived there as a lifeline for our institutions, whether it was an oxygen plant in India, or whether it was the essential PPEs and supplies that are going to Africa and other places of the world.
So I believe we've made a significant impact around the globe, not only with existing communities we were working with, but as I say, having more than doubled our impact, have reached new communities. We've taken the mission of the Adventist Church to vulnerable people which ADRA hadn't been to before. And I just think that it's a wonderful testimony to God's blessing at a time of need. It just reminded me of the verse, the Lord says, "With me nothing is impossible." And to me, He's demonstrated that.
So as you've seen, we're not out of the weeds with the pandemic. We have various variants hitting us and hitting parts of the world. We had India this year, and we mobilized resources to put in place oxygen generation plants. And then Fiji happened recently. We had to immediately brace up, and we got funding for Fiji with our partners to support and other nations in the South Pacific. Then just recently, this week, we're mobilizing to respond in Paraguay, Tanzania, and Philippines. We received resources to help those countries. And as we speak, we're putting another 6 containers on the water. Some of them already left to 6 nations in Africa, but it will still help with providing those critical medical supplies and PPEs for these African nations. And actually this week, we just received in our GC new warehouse 10 pallets of essential PPEs in partnership with Adventist Health in California and Globus Relief that are going to Ghana.
This is something that we're going to have to respond to in the immediate need, but there's going to have to be a plan for how we're going to engage different countries and regions in a long-term way. And we're still doing it. Our team hasn't dismantled. The pandemic hasn't gone away.
I honestly did not believe we could have achieved what we did. And that was only achieved, number 1, by God's grace, and number 2, by the commitment of all of our staff members within ADRA International and around the globe who saw the need and rose to the occasion. I couldn't be more proud to lead a group of people like that. I give glory to God for that.
Coming up, Maranatha Volunteers International sent a missionary to a remote tribe in Kenya, and Adventist Help is back in Iraq to provide medical care for refugees in desperate need.
We may look, pray, read, think, worship, sing, and share differently, but we all look forward to the Sabbath. And we all look forward to the future when Jesus will come again. With this message in mind, we arrived at a core component for a new identity system, the creation grid, a simple 7-column structure for layout. The grid is a reference both to the prophetic timeline as well as to the creation week that culminated in the seventh-day Sabbath. Regardless of what or where you are designing, you can always find information to help you communicate that we are all Seventh-day Adventists.
Welcome back. Impact Hope is an inspiring Adventist supporting ministry that works in Rwanda to help refugees get an education. Their story starts in 1994 when Hans and Mindy Thygeson learned that 80,000 refugees had flooded into Rwanda from neighboring Democratic Republic of the Congo. Many of the refugees were not only Christian, but Seventh-day Adventists. If you are inspired by this report Impact Hope sent us, please go to their website, impact-hope.org, to learn how you can get involved in equipping refugees in Rwanda with an education.
Rwanda has worked hard to recover from the brutal genocide against the Tutsi in 1994. But refugees continue to seek safety in Rwanda from neighboring Congo. Terrorists often threaten, beat, or kill adults and children as they attempt to escape the turmoil. After decades of war, many children are homeless and missing parents or siblings.
Then they say, no, it's a trick, you are not soldier, you need to put my gun here. They say, no, you should pick out. And in that moment, I remember, I didn't know how to pray, but in my heart, I just knelt down, then I said, oh please, my God, help me if I escape this place. I should serve you all the time.
My old brothers and sisters are still in Congo because when the war was broken out, I separated with them. They ran away where I don't know. Until now, I have never seen them.
Been shot when I was 3 years old. Till now, I still suffering from some pain, especially when I took long travel, especially walking.
The number of people fleeing the Congo grows each year. Yet little is known about the current refugee crisis in Rwanda. Now the total number of Congolese refugees in camps is over 80,000. These refugees are trapped in desperate conditions in makeshift homes with no running water, sewer, or electricity. The refugees do not own land, so have no way to raise their own food or keep their own animals. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees provides enough for 1 meal per day per person, and aid continues to be reduced.
It is not a good place for a human being to live.
To find something to eat, something to dress, it is so hard.
The refugees desperately want a way out of the camps, but lack opportunity. Rwandan high schools are located in the cities, a long ways away from the camps, making it more difficult to access upper secondary education. Brave girls who walk as much as 5 miles one way risk assault or rape. It happens routinely. Often when returning from class, the students find nothing to eat since the family has already eaten their 1 meal. Then the students have to get up early and walk back to school on an empty stomach.
In this life that we live, if you are an educated pupil, you cannot get anything.
In 2015, Hans and Mindy Thygeson started Impact Hope, an organization that sends at-risk refugee youth to safe Christian boarding schools in Rwanda. This gives the teens a chance for a high school education and also a place to be empowered by hope.
We feel passionate about helping these refugee students because we have been so impacted by them out of their dire situations, the hope and the Christ-centered life that they're living. By helping them, we have been incredibly blessed ourselves.
For most of the graduating refugees, a high school diploma isn't enough to secure a job. so Impact Hope added a summer trade program. The summer program teaches permaculture, hairdressing, sewing, plumbing, electrical, and culinary arts. These practical trades equip students with a realistic way to make a living, a way to finally break free from the refugee camps. After a student graduates from high school, Impact Hope gives them opportunity to attend a one-year technical school to become certified in a trade. Many students who have finished have found jobs in the hospitality industry, restaurants, maintenance, tailoring, technical repair shops, security, and teaching. For graduates who are motivated to start a small business, Impact Hope is helping by providing entrepreneurial training and microloans. Graduates have started bakeries, restaurants, tailoring shops, farms to sell produce at the markets, clothing shops, and cooperatives. But still, more needs to be done.
With a donation of $50 a month, we can immediately take a child out of a camp and place them in a safe, secure boarding school.
A sponsor gives a young person an education and a vocational skill, plus safety and enough to eat. And all that in an environment that will build relationships with Jesus and create a life of service to those around them. And there are even more students who need help. Each year, over 10,000 children from the refugee camps miss out on a high school education and the chance to learn a life-saving trade.
Right now, the doors to Rwanda are open, but given their past, we know that those doors can shut. This is the time to do the work in Rwanda.
There are ways you can help too. You can support a refugee student. You can pray for the students, staff, and volunteers at Impact Hope. And you can tell others how students in Rwanda's refugee camps find hope. Visit impact-hope.org to find out more. You can impact hope.
Maranatha is an Adventist supporting ministry that works to provide strong, dignified structures for worship and education around the world. Years ago, the Adventist Church in central Kenya sent a missionary to a remote tribe near the border with Ethiopia. Soon, the Adventist message was heard and accepted. Through the years, Maranatha volunteers have gone back to build churches and dig wells to provide clean water. Maranatha sent this report.
In 2016, the Seventh-day Adventist Church in East Central Africa asked Maranatha to build churches in the extremely remote Illoret region of Kenya. Maranatha's one-day church crew made a 5-day journey from the capital city of Nairobi to this land inhabited by the indigenous Dasanich tribe. The team constructed 4 one-day churches in the area, and while there, became aware of the people's desperate need for water. Because of years of drought, the only place the Dasanich can find water is by digging down 15 to 20 feet into a dry riverbed and scooping the muddy water that seeps up from the earth.
The people, my goodness, what a tough life they have here. Always looking for water. That's how their life runs. I mean, they go into these dry riverbeds and they're digging for water way down deep and just putting a little bit into a cup, trying to survive. I have been a lot of places in the world, but I've never seen anything quite like that. It made me think about what Jesus said, "I'll be with you to the ends of the earth." And I was pretty sure that we had arrived at the ends of the earth.
Since that trip, Maranatha has been praying and planning the logistics of a return journey to Illoret with a large convoy including a drilling rig, large trucks, and support vehicles.
We had to come back, and we began making plans right away to do that. And it's very difficult, challenging, it's logistically difficult. Everything has to be brought up here. Your machinery, your trucks, your pipes, your fuel, your food, all the leadership people. If you forget something, you can't run down to the store and pick it up. Everything has to come. And it's expensive. So where's the money going to come from? And are we going to hit water anyway? I mean, we can put up a few churches here and there, and that's helpful. But what they really need is the combination.
The return trek would take 5 days across long stretches of barren landscape without any roads or repair shops to fix mechanical breakdowns. In November 2021, Maranatha successfully made the return trip to Illoret with a convoy of 11 vehicles to drill water wells at the original one-day church sites and build more churches. The drilling team was able to hit water at all 4 sites, and with extra materials left over, drill another 2 wells, although one came up dry. In total, 5 new wells are providing clean water to thousands of Dawsonage people who no longer must walk miles each day for muddy water, and at the same time, increasing interest in the Adventist Church.
Seeing some of the people pushing the pump and the children, and actually not always children, putting their hands in there and rubbing it over their head. It's kind of exciting. It's beyond exciting. It's miraculous because since we didn't know what to expect, and here's the water that we've been thinking about ever since we first came up here. It's hard to explain. It's impactful, big time. If you're not impacted, you're not alive.
To learn more about Maranatha's work around the world, visit Maranatha's website at maranatha.org.
Coming up, David Trim is here for This Week in Adventist History. But up next, an Adventist humanitarian team in Iraq gives much-needed medical care to refugees.
I will give to the Lord the thanks due to His righteousness, and I will sing praise to the name of the Lord the Most High.
Right now, there are more than 3 million people displaced in Iraq, people who have had to endure some of the worst torture and war imaginable. Adventist Help, a Seventh-day Adventist supporting humanitarian team, works to provide free medical service to refugees in need. Recently, the Adventist Help team arrived in Iraq and are just about to open their doors again. They sent us this report.
Hello, my name is Gild, and I've been working with Adventist Help in these last years. So, Adventist Help was invited to return to Iraq, a place where we had a project in 2017 and 2018. And because most of the health organizations that left the country, there is a huge need of medical care in this area with around 20,000 persons in need. So we returned here and we are planning to reopen an emergency room that will be providing care 24/7. We are close to Mosul, and after 1 p.m. there is no medical care in these 3 camps. So we hope you can be part of this project also. You can be part of this opportunity to serve this community. And we'll be opening our volunteer program in the next few months. So please pay attention to our social media, to our Facebook, Instagram, or just send email to volunteers@adventisthelp.org. We are looking for doctors and nurses who would be committed to volunteer for at least 3 weeks or more, and to be able to be a blessing for this community. So we are waiting for you, and bless to you all. Thank you.
And finally, for today's episode, let's turn to David Trim for a look at Adventist history. This week, we hear about the life and ministry of William Ambrose Spicer.
Welcome to This Week in Adventist History, a very Adventist week, for it is the culmination of what Christians traditionally have called the Advent season, focused on the first advent of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. On December 19 in 1865, William Ambrose Spicer was born into a Seventh-day Baptist home. But he and his family became Seventh-day Adventists, and at 16, William was employed at Battle Creek Sanitarium. At age 21, in 1887, William went to Great Britain as a missionary. While there, he married Georgia Harper, known as Georgie. The two had met at Battle Creek Sanitarium when Georgie was taking nurses training. The Spices returned to America in 1892 as William had been called to serve as secretary of the Seventh-day Adventist Foreign Mission Board. In 1898, William and Georgie went to India as missionaries with their young family. The next year, William became president of the church's India mission. He was the only ordained Seventh-day Adventist minister in the whole of Southern Asia at that time. At the 1901 General Conference session, Spicer was appointed again as secretary to the Foreign Mission Board, but in 1903, aged 37, he was elected secretary of the General Conference. He had been handpicked for the role by GC President Arthur Daniels. For 19 years until 1922, Spicer served as secretary, establishing the church's administrative infrastructure for calling missionaries, which enabled a small movement to recruit, dispatch, sustain, and return missionaries all around the globe. Spicer also worked tirelessly and successfully to promote the cause of foreign missions among Adventists, with the result that Seventh-day Adventists had the highest per capita giving to foreign mission of any denomination in the United States. In 1922, Spicer was elected to succeed Daniels as president and then served in that office until 1930. No one can match Spicer's 27 years as an executive officer of the General Conference. After retirement, he continued to serve as a general field secretary and an associate editor of the church's flagship paper, the Review and Herald. Spicer himself wrote continuously for the Review and other church papers for 50 years, producing countless articles and many books. William Ambrose Spicer was remembered with great affection as a man of the people, inspiring confidence by his simple habits and his reports of mission experiences. He passed away in 1952, having done as much as anybody to make the Seventh-day Adventist Church a worldwide missionary movement. And that was this week in Adventist History.
Thanks for watching ANN. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. This week we celebrate the greatest gift we have ever been given, the birth of Jesus Christ. During this time, we hope you are inspired to reach out to those around you and reflect the love of Jesus to every person you meet. If you are in need of prayer, you can contact us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or Twitter, and we have people waiting to pray for you. May God bless you and keep you during this season. Before we say goodbye, here's some good news from the book of Isaiah, chapter 9, verse 6. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulder. And his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. That's our program for this week. And remember, you can always visit Adventist.news for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.